Thanks for your time.
No worries, Rowie. How are you, Bone?
Hey, do we put too much importance on winning a round one game?
Well, if you win it, it's important. If you don't, it's very important that you get back. So I think I said before, round one throws up a lot of abnormalities in regard to performances, but you want to win round one. I mean, it's just simply, you go out to win round one. Port beat us comprehensively. They deserve to win. They've now got... I know this might sound very, very trivial because it's just a mathematical thing. We now have to win 12 of 21 to even remotely look at making the eight. They only have to win 11 of 21. And when you start doing that countdown as the year goes on, there becomes a mathematical improbability that sides will make it or won't make the eight. So, of course, every game's so important, but one realises that there's going to be 9 winners and 9 losers. What you don't want to do is double up your loss. And we play Richmond. Both of us have lost. Port play. Who did Port play this week?
It's a split round, so they'll play the Crows in the showdown next week.
Well, one would suspect that's going to. Yeah. Well, it's so important that you get off to a good start in AFL football because it's a bit like a 400-metre race. If you're a long way behind, you generally burn up a lot of energy to get there. So you've got to be, I think at 11 rounds, you've got to be in the positive. 6 and 5's the bare minimum that you want to be.
Hey, Mick, I'd be interested to know what, if you could share with us maybe the feedback from some of your players. Port ran hard, they ran long, and watching the game, that was what was most impressive about them. I'd be interested what the feedback was from the players.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of feedback in that regard.
Okay.
The biggest thing was that we just didn't get our hands on it at all in the middle. We had 2 ruckmen that were hobbling a bit, and we just couldn't get our hand on it, and they made us pay dearly. We basically played that last half, or last quarter rather, in the centre square to their front goal square. And we just couldn't get our hands on it. Simply couldn't get our hands on it. That's probably one of the worst performances for quarter in terms of statistics that I've seen, and we were part of it. So we threw everything at them in regard to numbers through the middle to see whether we get our best one, our worst one, our unpredictable ones, our fresh ones, but they really just creamed us in the middle. Wasn't
a fatigue thing then, Mick? That wasn't. I know we've spoken about your injuries and that over the pre-season.
We were fit. Are we match hardened? No.
Okay.
There's half a dozen players that are not match hardened, and that is just a fact of life. That is no excuse whatsoever. I don't take anything away from Port's win. They are a very worthy, not only winner, but a very worthy contender, I believe, because they've got all the ingredients of what makes a very good football side. They've got a very solid back line, a massively good running midfield, and they've got an unpredictable to the opposition, but a very predictable forward line structure where they just work so well together. They are the real McCoy. Make no mistake about this. That wasn't a flash in the pan last year, and those that thought so, fool them, because I thought it was a very, very terrific performance last year. And you don't fluke winning finals, and they really did play a terrific game in that final. So I say that, yes, we certainly had players that were not match hardened, and we need to get those blokes. The thing people will say, why did you play them in the seconds? Well, I don't reckon you get match hardened if you're a senior player playing seconds football today. I think the gulf between first and seconds is that enormous.
Yep.
You're better off taking the punt. You know they're fit. You know they're going to get through the game, but you know they're also going to struggle to get through the game on the terms of the opposition. So full credit to Port.
Bone and I fought all yesterday over the match review panel's assessment on Walker's no case to answer on his ball on Westhoff. I think the match review panel got it right, and I'm glad they're going to also use precedence. Bone thought he should have got games for it. Mick, where did you stand on that one?
Bones thought he should have got.
Yeah, Mick. I thought he was gone. I thought he hit the head, so I thought he was in strife.
No, on all shots that we saw.
Yep.
And remember, I'm pleased that they've actually weighed this up. He's a left-hander, a right-footer left-hander. His first contact was. I'm still smarting about the fact that there's a 50-metre pace because he actually closed in and hit the ball. He hit the ball first before any other contact was made, and I think that's got to be taken into consideration. There was no intent to hurt. It was a ball there to be spoiled. It may have been a fraction late. Maybe that's why the 50 metre. I don't think so, but I'm still trying to work out why there's a 50. But no, the player's a left-hander, and he's always going to spoil with his left hand. I mean, I'm a back.
He's clumsy.
Oh, you think so?
I thought he looked a little clumsy for an athletic bloke like that. I mean, again, Rowie and I have completely differed on this one. I thought it was clumsy for a bloke who is so athletic.
Well, I'll disagree because I just know when you're coming from that angle, and you're a left-hander, you automatically, when you know there's going to be contact, because it's down the same contact line of your body, like it's shoulder to shoulder. It's not that you're reaching across with your right hand to actually spoil the ball. So therefore, between you and his shoulder is space. There's no space. I think it's a pretty good decision by the match review panel in that regard.
They make two good calls. Did the other one annoy you?
For the percentage out, yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes, it did. Yep.
Which one was that, Bone? The throwing into the fence?
Monfries into the fence.
Yeah, well, that was probably just silly. You probably give him a game for being
stupid. We've spoken about that. Right to death, he's actually reached out to try to save him from going to the ground, but it was too late. And he knows exactly that he's let the team down in that regard. Andrew's a very pragmatic sort of person. He's looked at it. He's come in. He understands that it was a silly act. He wants to get on with life now, and he wants to keep advancing his reputation as a fair player and a good backline player.
So, Mick, for North Point Toyota, what was the story of the split round? Was it GWS beating Sydney? Was it the fact Collingwood got smashed by Fremantle, who are now playing more attacking footy? Or was it Gold Coast over Richmond? What was the story of the round for you? Put your game aside, because to you that was the story.
Yeah.
I think GWS was scary good, Mick.
Oh,
man.
Rowie, you have to correct me on these figures, but I'm led to believe they've got 27 first-round picks in that squad, right?
Correct.
Of which I think between 6 and 9, I'm led to believe 9, but I'll argue the case between 6 and 9, didn't get a game.
Correct. They played in the twos.
My God.
Oh, no. And first 4 number 1 picks. I mean, Tom Boyd even played in the twos and kicked 5. They're going to be scary good, Mick.
Oh, mate, I think we've created a monster. I've said it all along. I just think that if that's to develop Greater Western Sydney in preference to let sides like, and I'll use these sides and I don't want to, this is not to rub them up the wrong way, but the Saints have won one premiership in their history, as have Footscray and North Melbourne have won a couple. Melbourne have won one since 1964. I think we've got to also get a very good balance within the competition before we can start to. I mean, the compensation to them was far greater than the Gold Coast, far greater. And I still, to this moment, is that because of locale or is it because they want to establish Sydney? If that's the case, I just think that we are all victims of that rationale to try to promote sides at the expense of. Because don't forget, the supporters still pay. I'm always one of these people that looks at the supporters and think, now they pay their membership to go to a game with the hope of winning a premiership at some stage. We don't give them that. We don't give them an evenness right across the board. Aren't we letting down our supporter base? Aren't we letting down our very fabric of what AFL football's about? It's it's got to be an uneven. It's got to be not knowing who's going to win games. We will go down the track next year. They're going to be 3 or 4 years old, and we're going to be going, what have we created?
Hey, Mick, they gave away Joker O'Meara and Jack Martin as well. Crikey, what could they have been?
Well, that's right. And they've traded Adams for Shaw. I think some of their trades have been very good in regard to senior players coming through. I think that's been a bit of a bonus, and they've got that right.
Do you like the way the umpires umpired the round? The hole in the ball?
Yes.
You like that?
Yeah, I just think that we've now got back to let the game go.
Okay.
Let the game go. There's going to be always a thing to say, why didn't they? And there's a little bit of inconsistency. I just think the new approach is, to me, I believe that we should never umpire a game of football. There's too many variables and there's too many rules anyway. Let's keep it to a minimum. Let the game flow. People will sort it out. I could argue the case about 3 or 4 against us and 3 or 4 that Port probably considered. And you know what? I'd rather be that way than look at the ticky-touch with ones and go, look, we should have got 6, they should have got 7, there's 13. I reckon there's probably about 3 or 4 could have gone either way, and we go, that's pretty good. That's not a bad result.
You're happy to leave it on the ground when, they just seem to let you have an extra couple of seconds to work the ball out, and the players did. They got it out more often than not. So you're happy with that?
Well, the league don't want ball-ups.
Yeah, okay.
And that's
the
pretty much pushed across. Yeah, they hate ball-ups. They just think that it becomes a scrum. Mind you, it looks like a scrum anyway. We'll try to get it out, but that's why there's no time. They go and pick the ball up, throw it up, and see if they can move the footy. They don't want this congestion, and congestion develops basically about a ball up.
Can the Crows beat Geelong Thursday night?
Crows are very impressive. Geelong have been an outstanding side for a number of years. I'm not about to. I could not pick 8-9 winners if I had 30 goes. Because you just can't get it right. And I just think the pre-season competition's a bit distorted because you don't know who you've played and how players are and who you've played this sort of stuff and how underdone or overdone players are. I just think that you've just got to go on a little bit of last year's form. And when you consider where Adelaide were last year and the year before, and you combine it, and they had a lot of injury problems last year, and they've got those players back, they're quite capable. We could have a situation where half the predicted teams to win haven't, and vice versa, clearly. So, and that's the way it's worked out so far. I would say the probably Fremantle will win in as favourites, just slight favourites, but certainly I know that at the end of the day we were favourites. Sydney were massive favourites. Gold Coast and Richmond, well, on history you'd probably lean towards Gold Coast, and they got that right. And that's the 4 games.
I know it's only round 1, but I picked up a Melbourne paper today. There was a headline: what's wrong with the big 3 Victorian clubs? Carlton lost to Port, Collingwood lost to Freo, Richmond lost to the Gold Coast. I looked at the ladder today. Freo top, GWS, then Port, then Gold Coast. If West Coast beat Bulldogs, Crows beat Geelong, Lions won't beat Hawks. Well, let's say they do. The top 8 clubs will be non-Victorian clubs. I know you won't mind that, Mick, but gee, in Melbourne, they go, it's round 1, and they're saying, what's wrong with the big Victorian clubs? Unbelievable.
It's a national competition. I can't get my head around that. I've coached interstate or non-Victorian side. You just got to move on. This is a national competition, and in the early days when I was there, West Coast paid $4 million into the competition, and I think Adelaide were the same. Brisbane got a bit of a leg up because of a joint thing with Fitzroy, but nonetheless, everyone's paid their dues to be in the competition. There's no right or wrong. If it turns out one year it's all 8 non-Victorian sides, or it's all 8 Victorian sides, who cares? You want variety, you want change, you want to go into round 15 before you know what even the top 4 are, and by round 17 or 18 when you find the top 8, at least something like that. So, who cares?
Yeah, well said.
Outside of me.
Hey, Vic, speak to you next Tuesday. Well done.
Good on you, lads. Look after yourselves.